Hey, I'm Lana from Lana Glowshot Art, and in this video, we'll be unboxing the January 2024 sketch box. This box is all about trying out different kinds of pastels on toned paper, and I'm going to take you through drawing a red panda step by step with several studies and a final drawing. Ready? Let's go. The surface in this month's box is the Rembrandt Toned Sanguine Red paper. This paper is great with a variety of different materials, including the 3 sticks of willow charcoal by Royal Talons that also come in this box. I like to work with a smaller piece of willow charcoal, so I actually break my charcoal before I use it. Charcoal is a very loose, impermanent material, and by that I mean it can move around the page, and your mark that you lay down is not necessarily the mark you're going to be left with because it can move. You can use this to your advantage though to erase and move around initial drawings. Always make sure you do this with a clean finger so that you can actually take the charcoal away. I am so excited for you to try the Derwent drawing pencils. These are some of my favorite colored pencils, and this set includes ivory black, light sienna, and Chinese white. Derwent drawing pencils are special because they are very soft, waxy pencils that lay down really opaque color. But the best way to do this is layer by layer. Here I am layering the ivory black, and I started with a really thin layer of color, and then I am building it up going in different directions. To achieve a gradient, you start out with a lot of pressure, and I'm usually holding closer to the tip of my pencil for this. And then as I ease up on pressure, I'm pulling my hand away so that I can use the lightest touch possible. I am also using the side of my pencil rather than the tip, and I go back and forth and create this effect layer by layer. This pencil does not smudge at all, so it is a complete contrast to your vine charcoal. So that means that in this set, you have 2 different black materials, and you can choose which one will work best for you based on what step you're on in a given project. If you're new to working on a toned surface like this sanguine red paper, it can be difficult to judge your values at first. Right now, this light sienna looks like it's almost white, but when you compare it to the white, you can tell that it is a slightly darker value. Playing around and swatching colors on this paper is going to help you start judging and seeing values in a way that you never have before. Let's put these materials together to create some small quick studies of red pandas. When you create a quick study, the first step is to lay out the basic shapes. So I've got the circle for the head, a slightly oval shape for the body, and just a line to mark where the tail is going to be. Then I ghost down this image with my finger so that it's very, very light, and I can come in with my ivory black Derwent drawing colored pencil with more permanent marks. And this allows me to come in with a lot of confidence, but already knowing where my mark is going to be and that they're accurate. So this is a great way to make your drawings look more accurate and more confident than they might otherwise if you just went in straight away with the Derwent drawing colored pencil. Let's create a few more exploring this red panda in different poses. For this second one, I quickly realized that it wasn't quite the right shape and wasn't going to fit on my paper right, but because I was working with the willow charcoal, I was able to just dust that first sketch off and keep going. Before going back in with my Derwent drawing pencil, I went ahead and blocked in all of the bodies that I was going to use on this paper. And then I switched materials and came in with harder, more confident marks. I do want to note that I'm pressing pretty hard with this Derwent drawing colored pencil, and because the wax in this pencil is so soft, you might get a little bit of breakage when you press hard with this pencil. And just keep in mind that that's very normal for the tip to break off just a little bit. Keep a sharpener handy and just keep going. The next product in our box is General's Multi-Pastel Compressed Chalk, and there are 4 distinct colors that you can use in this set. Here I'm using number 4039, and I'm creating a gradient that I'll eventually mix with the next color in the set. I'm using a gradient technique very similar to how I did with the colored pencils. I'm pressing harder at the left side, and I am easing off as I move to the right. But because this is a pastel, it can be easily blended with your finger. So you can use this to create more smooth, seamless transitions. Here I'm using number 4053, which is the second lightest value in this set. And I'm starting with pure color on the right side and creating that smooth gradient as I move to the left. I'm really leaning into using my finger to blend to create that really smooth, soft transition. This is 4029, and this color is very close to the color of our paper. So I am pressing a lot harder just to get the color to show up on camera. This one is going to be great for creating lines that look just like the paper in our next drawing. And I'm blending this color with the darkest color in this set, which is 4051. This set also comes with a Carbothello pastel pencil in deep English red. Having a variety of different kinds of pastels to use is going to allow you to experiment and explore and see what kind of pastel you enjoy working with the best. With all of these colors swatched next together, there is a really harmonious color story that is beginning to emerge. These colors are based around a red-orange, and this is giving us a very hot, fiery color scheme, which is perfect for this month's prompt, Flame. For this first study, I'd like you to begin with a really loose sketch using the willow charcoal. But before we dive into using our pastels, we're going to do a little experiment down at the bottom. On the left, I've laid out a thin layer of pastel, and you'll see how the colored pencil sits right on top. But when I lay out the colored pencil and put pastel over the top, there's a lot of smudging and blending, and it gets really messy. Sometimes the pastel doesn't even stick. So for this study, I want you to start with the pastel first. I'm starting with the very darkest pastel in the set, and I am laying in the shadows everywhere. It's okay that they're not quite dark enough yet because I've got that black colored pencil that I can use later, but I want to save that for the very end. Here, the darkest areas are right underneath the neck, in the ear, and around the ear a little bit. Next, I'm moving on to that reddish color in the pastel set, and I am blending or transitioning this darker brown into some of the lighter areas. So I'm going right over the top. You'll notice that each of my strokes are thin, light little dashes. So I'm not scribbling, I'm drawing lots of individual lines. And now I'm coming in with this color that's a little bit more yellow in tone. This is our second lightest value. This color is going to be focused mostly in the face. Lots of short little dashes here again. And you'll also see quite a bit of this in the body fur. The lightest color is going to be in the face again, and it's also going to help us transition into those white areas. For the white part of the fur to actually look like fur, we need a little bit of variety and depth. So having some of this lighter pastel there first will help it come through those layers. Here I got really excited and started working on the ear, but I quickly remembered that pastel has to go first. So I grabbed my pastel pencil and I used that darker English red to really push some of the richness in the shadows and to pump up the color a little bit. It's helpful to think of your colored pencils as the value in your drawing and the pastels as more of the color in your drawing. So once you have the color and those color transitions established, it's time to come in with your colored pencils and really push those darks. The darkest darks in this composition are right underneath the neck. And this is all about practicing the first. So it doesn't have to look perfect, but really focus on short individual strokes. I am pressing really hard with this and I'm layering it. So rather than scribbling in a shadow really hard from the beginning, I am layering these strokes of hair, looking closely at the reference photo to see what direction they're going in. After the darks are established, I'm switching over to the light sienna to start blocking in the lightest values. This is going to help that front part of the face really elevate in value and to create more contrast between it and the background and the redder fur on the back. I am putting this a little bit everywhere and I'm keeping my strokes really intentional. The direction is always informed by the reference material. With that all done, I can then go into my white. And the Chinese white is used to really, really push the lightest values as hard as I can. So again, I'm pressing really hard. I'm paying really close attention to what direction the marks need to go. And I'm layering them rather than scribbling or coloring in like a coloring book. We have one more material, the Faber-Castell Pit Artist Brush Pen, and this brush pen is going to help take your fur over the top. This brush pen is a very opaque white, even brighter and stronger than the Derwent Drawing Chinese white. And the brush tip gives you the opportunity to create really organic, specific lines. Use this brush pen to intensify any of the highlights or any specific hairs that you'd like. I particularly like it for the whiskers and those hairs that stick off the panda into the background. Let's put everything that we've learned together to create this drawing of a red panda. Start with your willow charcoal and create a very loose gestural sketch focusing on the basic shapes. Rather than transitioning to a permanent sketch with your Derwent drawing pencil, I want you to keep this really loose so that you can continue to adjust it throughout the drawing. After ghosting down your drawing with your finger, you can come in and start establishing some of the value. I laid in some of the lightest values first, just so that I could see where they were. One of the benefits of using a toned paper is that you can get this paper to do a lot of the work for you. So I am going to have this red sanguine paper do a lot of the color on the red panda, which means that I might need to make the red panda look different than the background. I went over the entire background with the pastel number 4053, and then I'm diving into the full range of pastels to render the fur for this red panda. I'm using all of the tips and strategies that I shared in the previous fur study, and I am focusing on color rather than really nailing the value right now. Because I have the background as part of this composition, I'm also using the pastels to give me a little bit more shape and form on the log that the red panda is sitting on, and to add some texture and leaves in the background. The Derwent drawing colored pencils are going to take this sketch to the next level because they're going to be able to push the value so much. Keep your strokes really small because this is a much more zoomed out version than the first study that we just looked at. You can also bring the colored pencils into the log and into the background a little bit if you'd like. Once the dark details are done everywhere, you can switch over to your lighter colored pencils. And I'd recommend starting with the light sienna first so that you can slowly ease into the lightest values. When you're working on the face, whether it be black in the eyes or light sienna or white in the details of the fur, keep your pencils super sharp. These details are tiny and you will need a sharp pencil to really render these details out with accuracy. When I add my white colored pencil, I'm pressing pretty hard. This is an opaque colored pencil, but it does have the option to go more transparent. So press hard so that you can get that white to really stand out. Then I'm using the brush pen to add the whiskers. And sometimes it picks up a little bit of pastel and colored pencil. So I'm wiping this off on a scratch piece of paper in between or when it gets clogged. And now this piece is complete. I hope you learned a ton about drawing animals and rendering fur, and we can't wait to see what you create. So be sure to use the hashtag SketchboxJanuary when you post your work online. For more unboxing videos and tutorials, you can check out our YouTube page where you can like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.